For all its beauty and splendor, the wilderness can be a cruel teacher. A bear's behavior is sometimes unpredictable. Although rare, attacks on humans have occurred, inflicting serious injuries and death. Each bear and each experience is unique. There is no single strategy that will work in all situations and that guarantees safety. Most bear encounters end without injury. But in the rare instances when a bear attacks humans, the odds of survival are very slim. Please click the subscribe and like buttons. This is horrific animal disasters. Three species of bears inhabit North America. The polar bear, the most deadly of all bears, brown bear, also known as the grizzly, and black bear. Of the three, the black bear is by far the most wide-ranging. These resourceful bears can be found in nearly all 50 states and account for the most human encounters. For Lindsay Jones and Nikki Latta, their bear encounter would be straight out of a horror film. One of Nikki Latta's favorite things to do is paint on the trees in the woods near Port George, Nova Scotia. On a late afternoon in August of 2013, she invited her friend and young mother, Lindsay Jones, to one of her outings. Lindsay didn't have her kids with her that day, so it was perfect to spend some quality time with her friend in the woods. The friends were in woods east of Port Lorne, between East Shore Road and the Bay of Fundy. They followed a path to paint art on the trees. Nikki has hiked there for 7 years without seeing or even hearing stories of bears. That was important to Lindsay, who is afraid of bears. Obviously, there's always a chance, but I was almost 100% sure we would never see one, Latta said. When they stepped out of Nikki's truck, a little hunting dog playfully greeted them as they stepped out. They didn't know where it came from, but the dog escorted them and ran ahead into the woods. At some point, the dog sensed danger and left the women, bolting in the opposite direction. "I hope it's not a bear," Lindsay said. Nikki, a forest restoration technician, has tons more outdoor experience than Lindsay, and insisted that no one has so much as seen a bear in the area. "I have to say, Lindsay was annoying the hell out of me with all of her bear talks. She wouldn't let go of it," Nikki stated. Finally, she did stop and continued painting. Nikki took a picture of Lindsay mixing the paints to post on Instagram. But even with the slim chance of an encounter, they made lots of noise going into the forest, a tactic recommended for keeping bears away. In some twisted manifestation, Lindsay's fears would be realized. It was only a few minutes' walk from the road through the woods to the painting spot. They were crouched down, mixing their paints and taking pictures. At about 6:45 p.m., Latta looked up to say something, only to see a large black bear creeping into view behind Jones. Nikki stared very wide-eyed and kept saying, "I never saw one, I never saw one." "Never saw what?" Lindsay said. Lindsay saw Nikki's horrified stare. She took a look behind her, and from about 5 feet away, she saw these little dark, beady eyes from the bear staring directly into hers. She thought this was a hallucination, so she put her hand over her eyes to make the vision go away. When she looked again, the bear's stare was locked in on her. For a moment, she thought about climbing a tree, but then remembered, bears are great tree climbers. The bear slowly walked toward her, sniffing the air. "Bad bear, bad, get away from me," Lindsay yelled, pointing her finger at him. Meanwhile, Nikki jumped down an embankment, about 15 feet down. She looked up and saw Lindsay wrapped around a tree with her eyes closed. The bear was very close, sniffing their purses. "Lindsay, get down here, and don't turn your back," Nikki yelled. She proceeded and jumped down the embankment as well. There was a small sense of relief as they didn't see the bear. They believed the yelling had scared it away. Still, they grabbed hands and started running. That's when Nikki looked back and saw the bear following right behind them. With only wearing flip-flops on their hike, they ditched them and were running through the woods barefooted. Every time they turned around, the bear was there, lumbering after them. They ran for a long while and their lungs were on fire. They felt like they couldn't go on anymore. Nikki has taken wilderness survival courses before, so what frightened her most was that the bear wasn't skittish about their presence, like in most instances. She knew they shouldn't run, but it was very close, which gave them little choice. So they tried to escape as smartly as they could, playing cat and mouse and taking turns distracting it by shouting and waving their arms, while the other person ran in the other direction. Lindsay got separated from Nikki and was yelling for her friend. She thought the bear was going to attack her if she kept yelling, and imagining how much it would hurt. Her legs and feet were cut up and bleeding from jumping down the embankment and running barefoot through the forest. She worried the bear would smell the blood. and her concerns were valid. Their sense of smell is so good that it's difficult to measure. Conservative estimates of a black bear's sense of smell state they can smell a food source from over 2 miles away. More generous estimates place a black bear's sense of smell between 18 and 20 miles, which may sound extreme until you learn that polar bears have been known to follow seals for up to 40 miles. Meanwhile, Lindsay heard Nikki screaming for her in the distance. She responded, "Help me, help me." She happened to stumble across an abandoned hunting shack. It was locked. The window of the shack was elevated, but somehow, with her limited upper body strength, she was able to pull her whole body up, smash that window with her fist, and crawl in. The shattered glass tore and gashed her legs, and she was certain the bear would smell her blood. Sitting in the abandoned shack, alone, scared. She didn't hear Nikki anymore, and she believed the worst. Nikki is dead, and this bear is going to eat her next. Then Lindsay heard Nikki yelling outside the shack. The door wouldn't open, so she jumped up to the same window and pulled her inside. She fell onto the glass on the floor. Then they heard the bear growling outside the door and trying to pry it open. Lindsay's pupils were huge, and she was sweating. Nikki picked up a frying pan, ready for battle. Then they saw the claws coming through the window. The bear ripped out the curtains and chewed them up. They moved a dresser against the window and tried to stay very quiet, but they were severely frightened. They could hear their hearts beating out of their chests. Lindsay asked Nikki if she had her phone. Unwittingly, she realized she had been holding onto it the entire time and handed it to Nikki. She called 911. "A bear is trying to kill us," Nikki shakily whispered, while they heard the bear circling the shack and sniffing underneath the door. The 911 operator apparently had no idea what to do and kept transferring Nikki to other officers. Lindsay grabbed the phone, which had about 10% of the battery left, and screamed, "Help us! We're gonna die!" Problem was, they had no idea where they were, just that they were in a cabin close to the wood's entrance. All Lindsay could think was, this is how she's going to die. This is how she's going to leave her kids. Finally, the 911 operator told them the police were on their way. The police would find the car and sound their sirens to chase the bear away. The police located the car and sounded the sirens. The bear ran away. The two women in the shack, huddled together, were in shock at what just happened. Even though they didn't hear the bear anymore, they were still very afraid it'll come back. It took the police an hour, but they eventually found the shack with Lindsay and Nikki inside. When those two cops came through the door, Lindsay was bawling. They spent 4 hours at the hospital getting stitched up. A Nova Scotia Department of Natural Resources technician was quoted as saying that the bear's behavior in this attack was unusual. Some believed their reaction to the bear encounter triggered the bear's natural instincts. Regardless, they found the bear and killed it, citing its unusual predatory behavior. "I think what saved us was constantly confusing the bear, making it chase one of us while the other one got away," Nikki said. Soon after the attack, Lindsay Jones and Nikki Latta got matching bear paw tattoos to celebrate surviving the ordeal. While bear attacks are rare, you should always be prepared for a bear encounter. How you handle a bear attack depends on the type of bear you come across, grizzly or black. So the first step in surviving a bear encounter is to know what kind you're up against. Regardless of what type of bear, carry bear spray. This should be your first line of defense in a bear attack. Black bears are excellent climbers. Climbing up a tree won't help you out. Stand your ground and make lots of noise. Black bears often bluff when attacking. If you show them you mean business, they may just lose interest. If that doesn't work, fight back. Use anything and everything as a weapon. Rocks, sticks, fists, and your teeth. Aim your blows on the bear's face, particularly the eyes and snout. When a black bear sees that their victim is willing to fight to the death, it'll usually just give up. Vital tips so you can make it through a horrific animal disaster.